With the completion of the Perfect Preparation arc in chapter 152, I thought now was a very good opportunity to talk about some criticism of the story that I've been seeing in a lot of places ever since this arc really got going, specifically since Maki's power-up in chapter 149. I've seen a lot of people in comments on my videos, on discussion boards, in my Discord server, saying that they don't like how Maki is pretty much just Toji now, how they're apparently the same character now. Maki is not her own individual person, it's pretty much just Toji again, and they don't like that. They don't like that Maki and Toji are not their own separate characters anymore. And I strongly disagree with this, for a few reasons. Now, I feel I should start off by addressing the main argument that I've seen so far. Of course, if you have a different one, I encourage you to share it in the comments. We can have a little bit of discussion down there, see if I'll still disagree or if maybe you'll change my mind. But the primary criticism I've seen of the direction they're going with Maki's character is just the constant, not at all subtle comparisons between Maki and Toji. Ogi getting the same feeling from Maki that he felt from Toji, Ranta saying the two of them are the same, Naoya completely throughout the entire fight always comparing Maki to Toji, saying that they're not the same, ironically, and Maki beating Naoya, kind of suggesting that she is. They have been really laying it on thick that Maki is like the second coming of Toji, pretty much. Now, my main refutation to this is the fact that Toji is pretty much the only person in universe that Maki can be compared to. Almost everyone in the series operates through the Jujutsu sorcery power system. Everyone has cursed energy and cursed techniques. The only two characters of any significance that have zero cursed energy and no technique are Toji and now Maki. So Toji was always going to be someone that Maki was compared to. Even right after his introduction, when Yuki went and talked to Geto, she was talking about cases of heavenly restriction and how none of them were quite like Toji. We see an image of Maki as a child. So even right after Toji was introduced, we were already getting the comparison. So this was set up far in advance. You could maybe go so far as to say that Toji was introduced so that we could set up Maki's eventual power-up. It would prove that there would be someone who could reach the top tiers of strength in the verse while having pretty much the same condition that Maki has. I also really don't care for this argument that because their powers are the same, they're the same character. If you really want to take it far, you could say that Naoya is the same character as Naobito, and that Chozo is the same character as Kamo, because they have the same power. Maybe I'm strawmanning a little bit, but I don't really see any other way to interpret it than that. Because they have the same power, of course they're going to be compared to each other because Toji was an anomaly, and there's not really anyone else you can compare Maki to now. And once again, it's always been the plan that Maki would have a power-up like this, that she would get rid of all of her cursed energy and have her physical abilities heightened to the same level or a similar level to Toji. That was always the plan. It was always going to be like this. It's been set up ever since Toji was introduced, especially since he showed up in Shibuya and fought Dagon. It was an example to show to Maki, it's possible for someone like you to become one of the strongest people in the world and take over the Zenin clan, like she had originally planned. So I don't think that changed with this arc. I don't think anything went in a different direction with Perfect Preparation. I think they just made it more obvious because it was all coming to a head. It was the culmination of all of that. So I really, the argument isn't very compelling to me. With that out of the way, time to talk about why Toji and Maki are separate characters. They're still different. Even if their powers are the same, their actual personalities, their motivation, or lack of, is different. So they're still pretty distinct characters. Starting off with Toji, Toji was someone who didn't have really any motivation to do anything. He was just kind of a guy that would go around doing whatever, taking jobs for money that he could get, and then blowing it all on terrible bets on horse races. He was someone who had no drive to strive for anything, and explicitly had no sense of self-worth. At the end of his fight with Gojo, he thinks about how he had abandoned his pride. He didn't want to live, for the sake of his own self-worth. He didn't value himself as a person. He didn't have any kind of sense of importance. And that changed at the end of his fight with Gojo. Or really, when the second part of his fight with Gojo started, when Gojo didn't die. And he pretty much viewed that as an insult to himself. And he also recognized Gojo as quite possibly being the strongest sorcerer alive now. He was the golden child of the Jujutsu world. He's pretty much everything that the Zenin clan held up on a pedestal. And it was because of that that Toji took that very personally. He was almost personally insulted by Gojo not dying, and so wanted to crush him and reject what Gojo was. And ultimately that was what got him killed. His perspective of viewing himself as worthless was probably the result of his terrible upbringing in the Zenin clan. It was seemingly why he gave away Megumi, and that he didn't think he would be a good person to raise him. He figured that since Megumi had potential, unlike himself, he would have a future if he was raised within the Zenin clan. Of course, when the copy of him, saw Megumi in Shibuya and found out that he wasn't a member of the Zenin clan, he never changed his last name, that made him pretty happy, because he realized that Megumi was able to, make something of himself without the Zenin clan. And he was very pleased with that. And the other huge difference is that Toji did not really care about the Zenin at all until the moment before he died. His desire to crush Gojo was probably, it was remaining stuff from his life when he was still with the Zenin. But for the most part, he didn't care about the Zenin at all. He just kind of didn't like sorcerers in general. But he left the clan, didn't want anything to do with them, didn't even feel bothered to destroy them. As Ranta said, they existed to this day because of Toji's whims, because he just didn't feel like it. The Zenin were so unimportant to him, he was so uninterested in having anything to do with them, he couldn't even bring himself to destroy them. He went so far as to change his last name. He really left everything behind, unlike Maki. Since her introduction, Maki has been an extremely prideful and motivated person. Although she technically left the Zenin clan, she still carried the name, she was still technically a member, and her plan was always to come back when she was strong enough and take over so that she could change things. As much as she hated the Zenin, she was still very much connected with them and always planned on returning to them. And if she was going to become the head of the clan, being an important member of it for the rest of her life. So Maki was always someone who had goals, who had motivations, unlike Toji. Now, in this recent arc, we've seen those motivations come undone completely. The primary reason, it seems, for her wanting to change the Zenin was just to make it so that her sister Mai would have a place to live, so that she could have a place there. With Mai's death, Maki kind of lost all reason to do that. The only other reason that she would still try to take over the clan would be for her own sense of pride to, kind of stick it to the people in the Zenin clan. They're always putting her down and told her that she was trash and that she was worthless. But instead of that, she decided, I'm going to kill all of these people. Well, Mai had requested it, but I doubt Maki had any reservations about that. She very much wanted to get revenge on the Zenin and destroy them at that point. And even then, that's still a motivation. They bring it up. Maki is like Toji in how her power works, but unlike Toji, she wanted to destroy the Zenin, which was something that Toji didn't do. He never had the motivation to do that. So that right there, the complete difference in their actions in regards to the Zenin clan, still shows a major difference between their characters. They're still very distinct, different people. If anything, I would say both of them have kind of shifted towards what the others used to be. At the end, Toji became more like Maki, and as of now, Maki has become more like Toji, but they were still different. And the biggest thing, of course, is that Maki's character arc is not over. She's lost her original motivation, but she's still around. You still have the culling game coming up, so there's still room for Maki to do stuff, and also, Maki hasn't lost everything. She still has the second years, she still has her fellow students at Jujutsu Tech, so she still has people around that she cares about. So there is plenty of room there for her to find a new motivation and maybe a new role in the story. But the two of them are most certainly different characters, and if you think they're the same, I don't know what to tell you. You're not reading. You're not reading if you think they're the same characters. So with that, that's all I have to say for this rambling and discussion video. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and click that notification bell so you don't miss any of my uploads. I do Jujutsu Kaisen chapter reactions and reviews. Every week we get a new chapter. I also do videos on Kengan Omega and Record of Ragnarok, both here and on my other channel, which you should check out because I have 2 strikes over here. So I have my backup link down in the description. You should subscribe to it, just in case anything happens to this channel. If you enjoyed discussing Jujutsu Kaisen with other people, or you just enjoy the content I produce on this channel, I highly suggest you check out my Discord server. I have linked that down in the description. And of course, since it's the end of the video, it's time to give a shout out to my wonderful patrons: Archbear CJ2K, Fuse, Neo, Dijon Redden, Anthony Chavez, Honey Mustard, Zach Rowitz, K-God, Chris Redfield, Scratch23, Moonshadow935, and Rat. Thank you all very much for supporting me on Patreon. I greatly appreciate it. And if you too want to get a shout out at the end of videos, or access to reviews for the Boxer and solo leveling, you can always become a patron as well. There's a link to my Patreon down in the description. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys around. Take care.